Hey YouTube, I'm back. Earlier today, I uploaded a video about my mom because this is the 6th-year anniversary of her passing, and I felt like I wanted to honor her in some way and also just sit down and talk about her for a little bit. And I uploaded the video. Gotcha. Cat. And then I set it to private. I did not like it. I was in a hurry. I thought I was going to go shopping today and have a bunch of errands to do, but my son ended up with an upset stomach, so we ended up staying home. So I took that video down and decided to just sit in my bedroom in a nice, comfortable space and talk about her. I also uploaded some pictures of her, but then I took those down too. I kind of felt like maybe I was like invading her privacy, even though she's not here. But for some reason, I just felt like that. So I may or may not either put one or two or maybe put them all back up. I don't know yet. Excuse me. I'm in my bedroom and I brought a umbrella light, I guess it's called, in here. I have to keep like moving the phone to get the light. But anyway, so like I said, I didn't like that video, and so I took it down and I'm doing another one. I did my makeup like my mom would have done hers, and I attempted to do her hair earlier, but she was a big hair teaser and I cannot do that. It just looks horrible when I attempt it. So I just basically left my hair straight and normal. So anyway, let's get to my mom. She was born in a really small, tiny mining town, and she had an older brother and sister. Her sister passed on quite a while ago, and she died early of cancer, of course. And her brother is still alive. He lives about an hour from me. We're not close. I was very close to my aunt. And I believe my mom, well, she was, first of all, she was raised in that small town. And I think she was around 19 when she decided to leave and go on her own. And she went to San Francisco, which she loved. And she loved, the weather, the fog, and all that stuff. We loved that stuff, my mom and I. And she had a job, I believe at See's Candies, and she saved up her money, and I think she bought a Porsche. God, if I heard the name of it, I would know it, but I can't remember like off the top of my head what it was. But I believe it was a Porsche, and she just loved that car. And she ended up meeting someone. She met a musician, and they ended up moving to Canada for a while. And she loved Canada, of course, beautiful. She loved that place. I think it's Stanley Park. She loved that place. She used to get on the internet and show me pictures of that park and other places that she'd been. She was a very, very beautiful, sweet, kind, loving, generous, thoughtful, amazing person, beautiful inside and out. I was very lucky to have her as a mother and a friend. She was something very special. She loved people, loved animals. Um, so her and this boyfriend lived in Canada, and after a while, she decided she wanted to come back to the United States. So she went and ended up in a town in California. God, this light is driving me nuts. Probably driving you even nuttier, huh? All this adjustment. Um, I'll try to stop. So she ended up in this one town in California, and there she met my father, and they got married. And he was in the military, so they got transferred to England, which is where I come in. We lived there for a while, and she started to miss, her parents and her sister and her brother, and she wanted to come back to the States and be around them, because she had a daughter now, and she wanted to be around her mom. She loved her mom and her dad. So we came back to the States, and we moved around quite a lot. We stayed in Boston for a little bit, which would be my father's family side, lived in Boston. They still do. And then we ended up in different places in California. And then we also lived in Arizona for a little bit. And then my mom and dad and my grandparents, because did I say that we went to live with them in Arizona? Sorry. So then they all decided that they wanted to go back to California, and they were all going to buy a house together. So we came back to California and got a house together. And then my dad got stationed somewhere overseas again, but my mom didn't want to go. So he would periodically get stationed overseas, back and forth. He was, I don't know if I'm supposed to say any of that. So he was just everywhere for a while. And so we kind of put roots down in California for a bit. I went to school there. And so we finally, I can't remember how many years after we all got the house together, my grandmother was diagnosed with lung cancer. And her and my grandfather decided to get their own place. And I think it was, easier. I don't know if it was easier, but, her needing her rest and stuff, And so my mom and I would go over there frequently to take care of her and help out, in any way that we could. My mom just loved her parents, and I loved them too. They were awesome. They were just sweet people, funny. So my mom took care of my grandma, and she'd take her to a lot of her appointments and things like that. My grandmother passed when I was 13, I believe. 13 or 14. I was 13, I think. My grandfather kind of fell apart. My mom took care of him too, quite a lot. And we eventually moved to another city in California. And my grandfather stayed where he was. But eventually he had strokes because he wasn't taking care of himself. And so my mom ended up moving him into our house, and she took care of him. She just ran herself ragged. She was that kind of person. Um, and it eventually got to a point where she couldn't do it anymore. She was working and taking care of my grandfather. And then at night, when she was trying to sleep, he would be calling for her all night. And I would try to go take care of him, but he wanted my mom, so he wouldn't let me do anything for him, even though at that time I was 18, and I had, no, 18, 19, might have been 19, and I had my first child, but he just wanted my mother, his daughter, and she was just run down every way possible, emotionally, physically, mentally. And so she had to put him into a care home, and that was extremely hard on her. um like I said, I had my son, my first son, and my mom just loved him. She was crazy about him. At first, when I was having him, she was kind of worried because she, never had a boy. She only had me. She had a miscarriage before me, but she was just worried that she wouldn't know, what to do or how to take care of a boy, but she was fine. um, so eventually, my grandfather passed. I'm trying to think how old I was then. Not sure. It had been 1 or 2 years later. He just kept having strokes. He was also diabetic. Um, my mom was greatly affected by her parents' deaths. It just, you know, depressed her to no end, which, is normal. uh, so we moved from that house. My parents bought another house, and um, my mom started to paint more seriously. She was a beautiful artist, painted just gorgeous, gorgeous pictures that you just want to crawl into, you know, and live there. They're that beautiful. She was never confident in her art, but everybody around her that ever saw it just loved it. I wish she would have been more confident in it and herself. Like I said, she was just a beautiful, beautiful woman, and but she just didn't believe it, like a lot of women and men, you just don't have that self confidence in yourself. So she really got heavily into painting, and um, drove her crazy when she couldn't sit down and paint, if something else came up that she had to do. She was very protective of me and our animals and anyone that she loved. You did not want to mess with my mom. We had a cat that she got in England, and he had kind of a love hate relationship with me. When my mom was pregnant, she had him on her belly, and she was petting him, and giving him love. And I guess I kicked him. And he did not like that. I guess he got up, turned around, and gave her a dirty look. And so then when she brought me home from the hospital, he was not thrilled. He used to chase me. He'd get on his back legs, walk on his back legs, get his front paws, and just bat them at me as he's coming at me. Used to scare the heck out of me. And he would hang upside down on windows. Um, like sometimes I would hear noise, on my window, and I'd get a little scared, but I'd go and, open the curtain or whatever, and I'd look, and there'd be something hanging upside down. And I would just, like jump back, be scared, and go run and tell my mom there's something at my window, something at my window. And she'd be like, oh, that's okay. It's probably just our cat. And I'd be scared. And sure enough, it was our cat. One time, we had a neighbor, and she wasn't really very nice. She spent a lot of time yelling at her kids, yelling at everybody else's kids, yelling at her husband. She just wasn't a nice person. And I was out in the backyard, and I happened to look up, and I saw my cat hanging upside down at this lady's kitchen window. And at the time, she had the blinds shut. And sure enough, a couple minutes later, she starts opening the blinds, and she sees my cat hanging upside down in her window, and she flew backwards, and she was screaming. Oh, she was not happy. And she came over to our house and tried to tell my mom about it in not such a nice way. And no, you don't do that with my mom. So the lady went quietly back to her house. You are not gonna, get mean with anything or anyone that my mom loved. It just wasn't gonna happen. So we never heard from her again, which, nobody missed. So win-win. My mom, like I said, loved animals. She would take, any stray, any animal that needed help or whatever, spend whatever money it took to get them well. She was something. Very special person. Every single person that I've ever known loves my mom. Nobody has a bad thing to say about her or a bad memory. Well, except maybe that neighbor. But no, everyone, loves my mom. She was awesome. Very special lady. My friend was just telling me yesterday or today. Let me move my finger. My little finger hurts from holding the thing on the back of the phone. But anyway, my friend was just telling me how lucky I was to have her as a mother. And I agree. So eventually we get here, and that was where she was diagnosed with cancer. We were in the doctor's office, and he put a scope down her throat to look, and he said that's cancer. And I guess that the look on my face was just purely devastated and crushed. And my mom saw that, and she told me that she would try treatment, but that she didn't want to, but she was going to do it because she saw the look on my face when the doctor said she had cancer. And so she went and had the treatment, which just devastated her. it was a nightmare. The lies that these people will tell you to get your money. And as you may know, if you've watched previous videos, I'm still pretty angry about it. And it happened to my husband at the same place, and to a friend at the same place. And then I knew another person at that place. And even at that place, my mom was trying to help other people, and she could barely even stand up. She was um, like in the 90s, like 95 pounds, because of what that chemo and radiation did to her. I'm not going to get too much into that, mainly because, I don't want to depress people, but it just took everything from my mom, and she lost her will to live. Um, and towards the end, she told me that she wished that we would have gone back to England, her and I, and stayed, for a while, and just had fun instead of going through the cancer treatments and having what happened to her. And I think about that so often. I would have, oh, that just would have been so much better than what happened. And she would have loved to be back in England. And that is one regret that I will have forever. Well, um, okay, we're at 21 minutes, so I will probably put one or two pictures up of my mom. And I will probably be back. I was thinking I might go around and video some of her paintings. They're all over the house, so I might upload that tomorrow and maybe do a makeup video because I've got to get to the store. So I will probably see you tomorrow. Thank you for listening.